Hello and welcome to another episode of Opportunistic Bets with me, Sam Mendelson. That's my new title right there. Thanks, Seth Mendelson, for doing that. And you can follow me at Mendy_Island. And what a week of football it was last week. I mean, there was just so many crazy things going on between just the fact that the Rams are back and San Fran loses to Seattle and Buffalo in the win against a New England team that looks to be back. And then you look at Pittsburgh and Baltimore and what they've been doing. And it's just been a crazy, crazy, crazy NFL season, and especially when it comes to betting. So let's just look at the picks I made last week and let's see how we did. I took Baltimore minus 2.5. That didn't work. Minnesota minus 6.5. Detroit, congratulations. Your first win of the season. There will be no shutout for the Detroit Lions. So good for you. Not good for our bets. So that's 0-2 right there. I took Miami money line, which was good. All of a sudden, the resurgence of Tua Tagovailoa, and you really like what I see from Jalen Waddle and that defense. I mean, they were fantastic last year, going 10-6, and all of a sudden 1-7. You're thinking Brian Flores on the hot seat. Where's that defense going? And all of a sudden, it looks like this is a team that is ready to compete and get into the playoffs. We shall see if that happens. Not entirely sure. Let me just get something right here. And there we go. Okay, so that was 1-2. I took Arizona minus 6.5. The return of Kyler Murray, return of DeAndre Hopkins. That's 2-2 right there as they beat Chicago. Jets Philly under. I thought Gardner Minshew versus Zach Wilson would produce the lowest score of the week, and boy was I wrong. As Gardner Minshew came to MetLife Stadium in New York with his mustache handlebars, his goose from Top Gun jacket, and he just delivered. I mean, he was like 11 for 11 in the first half. He was fantastic. Gardner Minshew. I mean, Minshew Mania back there on a bye. The Eagles, they come back. I know it's Jalen Hurts' team, but you might start Minshew Mania. So I go 2-3 right there. San Fran minus 2.5, 2-4. As mentioned, they lost to Seattle in Seattle. I took Indy minus 8.5. That was my absolute lock. Hammer it down. Jonathan Taylor over 170 yards rushing, a couple touchdowns. That defense really just an absolute story this year. Really, really, I don't know if you've been watching Hard Knocks, but Kenny Moore has been absolutely incredible on the secondary, but it's really led by two guys on the defensive end in the Maniac, Darius Leonard, as well as DeForest Buckner. They call him Defo. He's just been incredible. And I took Kansas City money line on the Sunday Nighter against Denver. So that puts us to a mark of 4-4, not great, not horrible. Hopefully this week we can get some things going. So I'm gonna go through some of my picks. Didn't really do well last week. 50-50 I guess is okay. I like to go above 50-50 always with my picks. So I'm going to try and bring you some good luck this week on Opportunistic Bets with your host, Sam Mendelson. Okay. So first bet I didn't want to touch the Thursday night game, Pittsburgh v. Minnesota, but I will stay in that AFC North right now, and I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens against the Cleveland Browns. Now you're saying, Sam, you got to go with the Baltimore Ravens. They're the top team. You got Lamar. I'm going with the Cleveland Browns. Coming off a bye week, I really like this team getting healthy. Defensively, they've had their ups and they've had their downs. They beat the Bengals and then they get slaughtered one week. They keep up with the Chargers but lose a tough game. But they've just been back and forth and really a tough team to figure out. But defensively, I think that they're going to figure it out. They started playing really well against Baltimore before the bye week, and a game that they lost 16-10 in Baltimore. A very tough place to play. Now they're back home in the dog pound. Baker Mayfield, gets another week to heal up, rest. Obviously, they've lost Odell Beckham to the Rams, but I think Jarvis Landry, Donovan People-Jones, but more importantly, the workhorse, Nick Chubb, minus 2.5. I really like Cleveland there, so that's my first pick of the week. I think Lamar Jackson has thrown, in the last few weeks, at least like 8 or 9 interceptions. Let's just pull that up. He's thrown 13 interceptions this year, and in the last 4 games, he's thrown at least one pick. 2 against Minnie, 1 against Miami, 4 against Cleveland, 1 against Pittsburgh. So in total, 8 interceptions in his last 4 games. 10 in his last 6 games. I don't know what it is about Lamar Jackson. I mean, I don't know if the cold weather, you'd think he'd be running the ball more. That really, Devontae Freeman's been a good, adequate backup for them. I mean, back for them. He's been getting the job done. Jim Harbaugh, I'm a huge fan of. John Harbaugh. Yes, sorry, just got a little confused there. Jim is in Michigan. Congrats to Michigan, making to the Final Four. But I really like what I see from Cleveland this week. I really think at home in a must-win game. I mean, that division is crazy. You look at the Bengals, who are in the wild card spot right now. They've swept Pittsburgh. They've beaten Baltimore. You'd think they'd be at top of the division, but they've had their struggles. Last week they were down 21-0. Then they scored 22 unanswered. Then they gave up another 17-18 to the Chargers in a tough loss. They got killed by the Browns, but they've killed the Bengals in Baltimore. So I have no idea where that division's going to lie. I think that's going to be a very interesting game. I think, obviously I really like Justin Tucker to kick like 3 field goals. But I think that some way, somehow, the Browns pull out a win. So my Browns, not a huge lock, but I'm going with one of them as one of my 8 picks. So I'm taking Cleveland minus 2.5. Then I'm going to go with Dallas minus 2.5. Some people have them early, a little bit lower, minus 1.5. Some people have them at minus 3.5, minus 4. I think Vegas right now has them at minus 3.5. But Dallas gets another week or a longer week after the win against New Orleans. And I was listening to Michael Irvin and Steve Smith after the game on NFL Network, and they were talking about sometimes you just need to get a win. I mean, in that locker room, you take a loss, you take a few losses. Dallas had lost 3 of their last 4, and between COVID and their head coach being out for COVID, Amari wasn't fully 100%. I think guys are starting to come back healthy. I heard Randy Gregory might be back. Micah Parsons is definitely your defensive rookie of the year. Double-digit sacks. I mean, I was just watching his draft announcement when he was drafted by the Cowboys this past year, and they were saying, yeah, this is a guy who plays linebacker, but don't be surprised if they put him on the edge. He'll have a double-digit sack season. I don't think they expected that in his rookie season, but Micah Parsons is an absolute stud. The defense is turning the ball over. 4 interceptions, 1 to the house last week against New Orleans. And, with the news that Ryan Fitzpatrick is done for the year, they got Montez Sweat out for the game. Chase Young, we obviously know, done for the year. I think Washington will play, but if you're giving me Dallas 2.5 points in a division game, even on the road, I'm taking that. Zeke, is he battered up? Absolutely. Is Pollard, you going to step in and have some production as well? We saw that in New Orleans, so I definitely think so. But this is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, and you look at that NFC right now, the playoff picture, and you have Arizona 10-2, and Green Bay, and the Bucs at 9-3, and Dallas at 8-4. Dallas cannot afford to lose a game. I mean, they do not want to face the LA Rams in the first round of the playoffs. Now, I'm biased, obviously. I wore my CeeDee Lamb jersey in the last episode. But you're going up against Aaron Donald in the playoffs. You don't want to be in that 4 seed. It looks like the Rams are pretty much locked in that 5 seed. So Dallas got to get a win, got to get it right, because you got a couple division games with the Giants and then back to Washington. And then you got the Eagles at the end of the year. Before that, you got the Cardinals. So this has got to be a get-right game. I thought defensively they looked great, but they haven't been playing a full game complimentary since I think the Atlanta game. So I really like to see Dallas bounce back. Then I'm going to go to the Chiefs-Raiders over 46 points. Now, we saw last time that Mahomes put up a 40-burger. I think, talking about getting right, I think Mahomes in the offense needs to get right. I saw a stat the other night about the Chiefs' defense in their last 7 second halves. Last 7 games, so the last 7 second halves of their games, they've given up a total of 27 points. That's like 3 points a half. It's incredible. I thought, the problem with this team was defensively, and right now, offensively, they can't get it going. I mean, I had Patty Mahomes in fantasy, and I'm watching him going, all right, he ran for 1 touchdown. Like, he'll get some stuff going. Tyreek Hill, I think, had 2 receptions. I think Kelsey had 2-3 receptions. I mean, Denver's a good defense. Don't get me wrong. But, man, there's something going on with the Chiefs right now offensively that's not working. Defensively, with the addition of Melvin Ingram, and then you look at Chris Jones, and you got the Honey Badger in the backfield, and everyone was talking earlier in the year about Steve Spagnuolo, about his job security. All of a sudden, he looks like the main guy right now. I mean, Bieniemy right now. You got to start getting things going, and I think they did it once a couple weeks ago against the Raiders in Las Vegas. I think they could do it right again. I think the Chiefs also see an opportunity here, right? You look at that AFC playoff picture, and you got pretty much every team has 4 losses. You got The Chiefs right now 8-4. You got the Ravens 8-4. We talked about them might be losing. Oh, by the way, the Ravens lost Marlon Humphrey for the year, so they have no one in the secondary. You got Tennessee missing their best player, Derrick Henry, who's out for the year, and then you got New England, who's there at 9-4. Obviously, they're on their bye week this week, but this is an opportunity for Kansas City to at least tie New England, and they want to get right. They get that home bye game, and they have to play. Everyone's got to go through Arrowhead. I think that is a big problem for the AFC. I think a lot of people early in the season did not expect Kansas City to have a route, however you want to call it, to the AFC top seed. I think a game here is huge. I think the Raiders, even with all their problems, I think Darren Waller is going to play. I think this is probably going to be a high-scoring game. So I'm taking the over 46. That's my third pick of my 8 picks this week. Moving on to number 4, I think Seattle. Talking about get right. I think this week is just about getting right. Maybe it's just because it's my birthday weekend and I'm all feeling pretty good and positive and things going well, and I'm about getting right this weekend. And the Seattle Seahawks, they have not been right for many weeks. But what did they show me last week? They showed me the resilience. They showed me, hey, this NFC playoff picture, it's not far from done. I mean, I look at the NFC playoff picture right now. Okay? And you got the 7th seed. You got San Fran 6-6. Now, Seattle at 4-8. They're 2 games behind, at least. They've got to leapfrog the Bears, the Giants, the Saints, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Vikings, the Eagles. But it could be done. Like, Seattle's remaining schedule is not easy, but they have the easiest game right here, and they have to dominate. They got the Texans on the road, then they got the Rams on the road, the Bears at home, the Lions, and Cardinals. If they can win this week and then beat the Rams, they can win 4 in a row. All of a sudden, they're back to 8-8 with the last 2 games that they play against Detroit and against Arizona. And by that point, Arizona might be done. So you never give up in this league. And I think Russell Wilson, with everything that's been talked about with him moving maybe to New York or LA or whatever it might be for his wife and wanting to have problems with Pete Carroll and wanting to get out of Seattle. Did he play well last week? No, but you got the win. And then all of a sudden Seattle against Houston, which we saw Houston. I mean, they put up a big fat goose egg against the Colts. And I think Seattle's defense, even though Jamal Adams was announced this week, done for the year, I think Carlos Dunlap is starting to pick it up. You always got Bobby Wagner, who always seems to be either the top tackle getter or second or in the top 5. So he's going to lay an imprint. And Houston's just not a good team. I mean, Tyrod Taylor might start. Davis Mills might start. You're giving me Seattle minus 6.5, even though it's on the road and they got to travel from Seattle to Houston. I'm okay with that. I'm taking Seattle. I think DK Metcalf is due for a game. He hasn't been well in about a month or so. I don't know if he's, dealing with an injury or whatever, but you got Tyler Lockett, who's been playing well lately. The running game not there, but you got AP. That goal line AP got a touchdown last week. 2 touchdowns this year. 1 for Tennessee, 1 for Seattle. I see he gets another one. And I see Seattle wins in a big blowout. So that's my 4 picks, and I'll get you the other 4 after this break.
Twelve-Ounce Sports has a new home for betting. BetUS.com is the official place to place your bets and support 12-Ounce Sports. All you have to do is go to BetUS.com and type in the promo code 120Z and you'll instantly get a deposit bonus. This is America's favorite sports book. And remember, always gamble responsibly.
Welcome back. We got through the first 4 picks. Just a quick recap. I took Cleveland minus 2.5 at home against Baltimore. I took Dallas on the road 2.5 against the Washington football team. I took Seattle on the road minus 6.5 against Houston. And I took KC Vegas over 46. And now let's go through the bottom 4 of the 4 teams. Here's probably my lock of the week. I'm taking New Orleans. We've been talking. The theme of this week's show is about getting right. We talked about Cleveland getting right, getting back into it. We talked about Dallas really, struggling the last few weeks and trying to get themselves right with a big division win against Washington. And this would pretty much solidify the NFC East. You talk about the Chiefs' offense about getting right. Talk about Seattle and the Seahawks. I'm all about getting right this week, and I'm going to go with New Orleans. Do I think New Orleans is a playoff team? No. I'm a big fan of Taysom Hill, and I'm a bigger fan of Sean Payton. And I thought he did a good job for most of the game, or most of the first half, and leading into the third quarter where things, after the Tony Pollard touchdown got away, of coaching and getting his team, who is heavily undermanned these days. I mean, Alvin Kamara is due back. I mean, that is a huge, huge plus. They're going up against the Jets team in New York. I don't think the environment's going to really affect them. I think Alvin Kamara is going to feed and feed and feed. So I really like Alvin Kamara. You have that RPO option between him and Taysom Hill, and I really think that that's going to be a real catalyst. But I also really like the defense this week to get a pick six as well. So if you want to do an anytime touchdown bet, look at that New Orleans defense to get a bet. But the line really has them at -5. I've got them at -3.5. I think that's an absolute joke. I mean, some people might say it's a close game. There won't be a lot of score. Or the Jets have, proven beating Tennessee and beating Cincinnati that they can put up points. I just don't know what's right with the Jets in today's day and age. I think they're just not really a good team. They don't have a lot of talent. I think the Saints, who also lack a lot of talent this year, have the best player on the field in Alvin Kamara, and I'm going to take the better coach. So you're giving me the Saints -3.5. Yes, I'm taking 3 teams right now on the road, but I like the road favorites right now. I'm taking them and I'm riding with them. Talking about getting right, I'm talking about this Taysom Hill, even with a little banged up finger, I'm talking about him getting right this week. So that's my 5th pick. Here's a bit of a controversial one if you're a Bills fan. I'm taking the Bucs at home -2.5. Tom Brady's splits in between being at home and being on the road are night and day. I mean, he has been absolutely fantastic at home. On the road, he's definitely struggled, but he looked fantastic last week against the Falcons after a week before that when he beat the Colts in Indianapolis. So he's back at home. And this Bills team, I mean, I feel like, that movie Austin Powers and he loses his mojo? I feel like that's Josh Allen and the Bills. Like, their mojo was there. They were perennial Super Bowl favorites coming out of the AFC. Mahomes was struggling. Everyone was, on the Bills bandwagon. And so was I. I like watching Josh Allen and the Bills. He's very fun to watch. I think they call him the Headless Horseman in Buffalo. But man, oh man, I watched that game on Monday night. If you didn't miss much. I mean, it was 900 rushing attempts from both teams. I mean, yes, the win was a factor. Now you're going from the win to the cold. There should be a lot of points. I think the over on points is about 54. I kind of like the over, but I feel like the more safe bet is taking Tampa Bay 2.5. I think that defense is really going to contain Josh Allen. It's going to make him throw the ball. Maybe he throws a pick. Maybe he doesn't. But I think Tom Brady, who's definitely struggled in the last couple weeks. I mean, he threw an interception against Atlanta. He's thrown an interception against Indianapolis. I'm just pulling up his stats right here. Yeah. Talking about interceptions, we mentioned Lamar earlier. 1 interception against Atlanta, 1 interception against Indy, 1 against the Giants, 2 against Washington, 2 against New Orleans. So he's thrown 7 in his last 5 games, 8 in his last 7 games. He's still throwing 34 touchdowns and for 3,771 yards. I mean, there's a chance he eclipsed 4,000 this week against Buffalo. Buffalo, good defense, but I don't think there's something in the recipe, something in Buffalo. Maybe it's the wings they're eating. Maybe it's just the cold, going from cold to hot. I think that could definitely help Buffalo. But I really think Tampa Bay, much better team at home. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and you can never count out Gronk. I mean, I feel like for about the last dozen years, it's been Gronk killing the Bills as a member of New England. Now have a chance to do it against as a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm going to go with Gronk and Tom TB Brady, or Tampa Bay if they call him, TB12 I meant to say, -2.5. And that's 6 picks. And that's only the second home team I took. But I'm taking 2 more home teams. I'm taking the Sunday Nighter and the Monday Nighter. Let's go with the Sunday Nighter first. Green Bay. I got them down to -9.5. Right now, the betting odds have them around -12. So obviously I'm feeling great about -9.5, but I could even take Green Bay by 2 scores here. I mean, Justin Fields is coming back, but Green Bay right now looks to me to be the top team in the NFC. Now you're going to say Arizona, Sam, but here's the thing: Green Bay beat Arizona without Devontae Adams in Arizona, and Arizona plays a tough Monday night game against the Rams. I still have Arizona to win, and that's spoiler alert. That's my Monday night game. But I'm taking Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers. First of all, he's coming off a bye week, so let's just put that into perspective. He's the reigning MVP. He's got a healthy Aaron Jones. He's got Devontae Adams just lighting it up as per usual. You'll see a Marquez Valdes-Scantling. It always happens against Chicago. A one-catch, 73-yard touchdown. Mark my words, I will replay this clip, and I will clip it if it actually happens. We'll see if it happens. But I love what they're doing defensively. I mean, they're missing Jair Alexander on the secondary. They're missing a couple other big guys, but they've somehow really been able to neutralize teams. Other than that blip against Minnesota, which, again, I think that it happens. They really shut down the Rams at home. Again, talking about taking a home team that is really just gets that home field advantage. It's going to be cold. It's going to be, Chicago's Justin Fields going up against a tough defense with different blitz schemes. And I really think that Aaron Rodgers is just going to figure out a way to put up a lot of points. And so 10 points doesn't worry me. Even if they're up 7 at half, I'm thinking, okay, that's fine. The only thing that might be a bit worrisome is if they're up by, 17, 16 points, and then Chicago scores like a meaningless touchdown at the end. I still like Green Bay. It's very tough to bet against Aaron Rodgers. Sunday night under prime time, and as we've seen already when he played in Chicago, he said he owns the Chicago Bears. He owns them with that double discount. The belt. I'm hard pressed to not take the points. You might look at the other way. David Montgomery looked good, but they definitely struggled at home against Arizona, and I think they're going to struggle on the road against Green Bay. Final game of the week happens to be on my birthday, so I wanted to put this one in there. I'm taking the Cardinals, a little -2.5 against the Rams. Here's the thing, folks. The Rams did what they had to do last week. They dominated Jacksonville at home. A, they were at home, and B, they were against a really bad team. But if you look at the Rams' last few games, they have not played well. They lost to the Packers, I just mentioned. Then they were on a bye week. And before that, they lost at San Fran 31-10, and they lost at Tennessee 28-16. And the weeks before that, you look at who they've beaten. They beat a Texans team who's horrible, a Lions team also bad, horrible if you want to say that, a Giants team not very good, a Seahawks team not very good. Their best win of the season came back in week 3 against the Buccaneers. This is a different team. Here's the thing. They've lost Robert Woods. Now, you're going to say, well, Sam, they've got Cooper Kupp. They've got OBJ. They've got Sean McVay. They got Matty Stafford. But Robert Woods is that guy that moves the chains. They don't have that guy. If Cooper Kupp is being double covered, which is the top focus, which, by the way, before I go into that, if you've seen Cooper Kupp's post-game highlights or post-game interview after the Jacksonville game, the reporter asked a really good question, what did you see on this play? And he broke down the scheme perfectly. Honestly, I was super impressed. This is a guy who's had that quarterback ability back in high school, played a little bit quarterback in college, so he knows how to read defenses. But now, obviously, as one of the top receivers in the league, some might argue the top receiver, I'd like to say Devontae Adams, and then healthy DeAndre Hopkins if healthy, and I might even throw Justin Jefferson before that. But the Rams definitely have not played their best, and yeah, they need a get-right game. But I think this is going to be a big game under the lights, Monday Night Football, Rams, Cardinals, and I just like what the Cardinals are doing. I mean, a lot of people are giving credo to Bill Belichick to win Coach of the Year, and rightfully so. If they first in the AFC with that team, I would 100% agree with that. But you have to not forget Cliff Kingsbury. He went 2-1 with Colt McCoy as his quarterback. Okay, they beat Seattle, they beat San Fran, both on the road, both in the division. That is hugely impressive, I should say. Then you focused on what they did last week with a still banged up DeAndre Hopkins in the rain, horrible, the worst field in the NFL other than Washington is Soldier Field in Chicago, and Kyler Murray just casually had 4 touchdowns. casually. Is he going up against a much better defense? Absolutely. And for that, I'm going to say that he might not get 4 touchdowns. But I really like what their weapons are with Christian Kirk, Rondell Moore, A.J. Green, D-Hop. James Conner is having himself a career year in his first year as a Cardinal. And then Chase Edmonds is supposed to get back. So you get that different pace of between your two backs, and Kyle Murray can just turn on a dime and go for 50, 60 yards, or he can lose and get a sack. That's the thing with Kyle Murray. He gets a sack, and it's like a sack of like 22 yards. It's never a sack of like a yard or 2. He's always running, trying to make a play running, and if he actually does get sacked, it's a big loss. But I like what they're doing defensively. Chandler Jones, I mean, he's definitely up there with TJ Watt as the biggest pass disruptors in the league. And there's a reason why they're 10-2. I mean, they lose against Green Bay at home, and they lose to Christian McCaffrey, who is out for the season, but lose for Christian McCaffrey at home as well, who just went off as he usually does in Arizona for whatever reason. But the Rams and Cardinals definitely could be the game of the week. I mean, there's some really good games this week. There's Bills-Tampa, really good game of the week. Dallas-Washington might be a sleeper. Vegas-Chiefs, Baltimore-Cleveland. So it's a really good slate of games. Week 14, if you're in fantasy football like I am, you know it's the final week before the playoffs start. And this is the longest season. So the unexpected, it should be expected now. So when I'm making these picks and I'm looking at the data and I'm looking at, the games, I'm thinking, what are my locks? Like, I definitely say the New Orleans one is an absolute lock. Seattle -6.5, lock that in. But the over Kansas City, Vegas, I mean, it could be like a 10-7 game going into the fourth quarter. You just don't know what to expect. Kansas City has been so, unelevated, or, I should say, unsituated in terms of, like, who they really are. Like, what is their personality? Are they an offensive juggernaut, or are they just struggling offensively, and defensively they're now becoming a behemoth? Then Dallas, look at what they've been able to do this year. They've shown that they've got talent on both sides of the ball. Dan Quinn, definitely the right guy leading that defense. He was the head coach last week when Mike McCarthy was out. And so, Mike McCarthy back on the field. The only thing I worry about the Dallas Cowboys is Mike McCarthy and, like, the clock management. But I think in a game where Dak Prescott's definitely going to be challenged, Washington's playing really well. I think they've won 3 in a row, Washington. 4 in a row. They beat the Raiders on the road. They beat Seattle at home in a nail-biter. The Panthers on the road. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. So a big game for both teams. Taylor Heineke is going to show what he's got, but I think Dak Prescott is ultimately going to be the better quarterback in that one. The Cleveland-Baltimore game, I mean, I'm looking at all the other games, and I'm thinking Tennessee-Jacksonville, I don't even want to touch that. Atlanta-Carolina, I kind of really like Atlanta, but Carolina coming off a bye week, Cam Newton, I'm really not sure. Detroit-Denver, could just take Denver money line, but I didn't want to throw something too easy. San Fran Cincy, that's also a really low pro good game. Joey B against Jimmy G. But I like Cleveland in this spot. I think Baltimore's definitely struggling. I think they're definitely trying to figure out what they can do defensively. If Baker Mayfield can play like he has in the past and hand the ball off to Nick Chubb, use that play action, they should be a lot of vulnerability. And then you got Myles Garrett. I mean, the guy's got freaking tombstones for Halloween of all the guys he sacks, and he just keeps adding to that list. So then I took Tampa Bay -2.5 at home against Bills. Should be a great game. Green Bay Sunday Nighter -10. I took them at -9.5. Arizona -2.5. And that is going to wrap it up for my 8 picks. Thanks for joining. This is episode 3 of Opportunistic Bets with your boy Sam Mendelson. Catch me next week for episode number 4, as we get later into the season. Week 15 just right around the corner. Enjoy your game and enjoy your bets, guys. Hopefully there's an opportunistic bet for you out there.